What's up, guys? So we got two new champions to talk about today. You've probably already seen videos on the free champion, but if not, it's going to be in the second part of today's video. The first one we're going to take a look at, though, is going to be the Mad Hatter. Now, this is going to be the fusion champion that's starting tomorrow. This will be a mixed fusion event. So basically, as far as I understand, mixed fusion events are going to be, okay, you have the epic champions, you get fragments for the epics, and you can fuse the legendary. So they're probably one of the hardest fusions to actually go for, because you have to be very mindful about what events you're actually going to hit, because you typically have to do all of the events. Hopefully there's somewhere we can just pick up a full copy of the epic. I'm hoping it's even just, I guess the epic from yesterday that was announced is a force epic, so maybe we can pull the epics from ancients and sacred shards. It increases the odds of actually getting it versus it being a void champion. But either way, that's going to start tomorrow. Let's take a look at his skills. So the Mad Hatter, Force Affinity Champion, is a support type. By the way, if you guys want to see any of these champions in specific roles, let me know. I'm going to be doing a lot of test server work before any of the content goes live, which is tomorrow for the fusion. So let me know what you guys want to see. If you want to see Mad Hatter tested in Hydra, tested in the arena, I will try to get some of those videos done so you can have the first look at whatever you want to see. So his A1 skill attacks one enemy 2 times. I'm not going to read the books over here. You guys can see that for yourself. It's just going to increase the buff and debuff chance as well as a cooldown. So they're going to be a big difference. First thing, he does require a decent amount of books. We have 4, 9, 10, 11. Not horrible, but also not super cheap either. But his A1 skill attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 25% chance of stealing 1 random buff. Each hit also has a 75% chance of applying a debuff spread effect, taking 1 random debuff from the target and placing it on all enemies under a hex debuff. It's pretty cool. So debuff spread, random debuff, spreading it. Doesn't seem like it's going to be something you can really rely on. Typically, random debuffs are, I don't know, not my favorite thing to see there. But his A2 skill, this is very cool. But I believe there's some other champions who actually have a very similar skill. So it's an AoE attack. We'll have to check the multipliers. Maybe it's good. AoE attack, 75% chance of placing a hex debuff and a weaken on all enemies for 2 turns. Then, the ally with the highest crit damage will team up and join the attack. The ally joining the attack will use their default skill. The damage dealt by the ally joining the attack will increase by 10% for each debuff on the target. Now this right here, I think would be really good for players in Hydra, even though ally attacks and stuff is not as powerful as it used to be because you can't just sink infinite damage into the heads. For players struggling to even kill the Hydra heads once they're decapitated, I think this could be amazing. You have AoE Hex on a, I don't know what, okay, 5, 4, 3 turn cooldown. It's really solid there. Great chance to place it. AoE Hex plus weaken. Bring in a Ugo. In addition, then you get the decreased defense AoE plus block buffs. You have a good chunk of the debuffs already accounted for right there. And then the ally joining in is going to have their A1 damage boosted by 40%. And if you are having a champion like, I don't know, Toshiro with your highest crit damage, well, you're going to have a pretty, which Toshiro is not going to be used at lower levels of Hydra, but it's going to be a crazy combination there. So there's a lot of other champions, of course, as well that have hard-hitting A1s. I guess, more budget champion would be Whisper. Whisper has a good A1 skill. You have a good blessing on her. I don't know, Obro. Actually, Obro, he may actually fit into my Obro team now that I think about that. May have to test that out. So then his A3, increase the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn, and decreases the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn. So a buff extension and a debuff reduction. Also a turn meter boost by 20%. That's pretty cool. Very good for Hydra, especially for players who are not worried about going fast. Some players, you know, they have plenty of damage. They don't want to have more turn meter boost because essentially you're just sinking more damage into Serpent's Will. But in this case, this is really solid for a lot of those players who he's going to benefit the most. Not the players who are pushing 800, 900 billion damage, or sorry, million. They've changed Hydra scoring a little bit. 900 million damage on Hydra. So then we have every 10 turns taken for his passive. Heals all allies by 20% of their max HP. It's really cool. So basically your team goes around twice. If you have a Relentless, it's going to be even less than that. Every 6 turns taken by the enemies places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. This is a little bit strange because if you're using him as a progression champion, the enemy's hopefully not taking too many turns anyways. Though if you have somebody placing like freeze, like say you have a Lady Noelle with him, she places the freeze, well, they all go through their turns. And then once they start again, they're basically getting fear placed on them as well. And then it places it on all enemies as well. So the 6th champion to go is activating fear on everybody. So as long as you can get through one of the enemy's turns, you're actually going to have a very consistent uptime on the fear, which actually is pretty amazing. If there are multiple champions on this team with the skill, only one will activate. So where do I think Mad Hatter is going to be used? I think he's going to be an excellent champion for Hydra. I think for some teams that have trouble fitting in a weekend, he's going to be perfect because having a weekend plus a Hex champion is difficult. Throw him in a Curse set, and now all of a sudden you have a even more valuable champion bringing weekend, Hex, and not Cursed. Cursed is going to be useless because he's literally placing Hex. Provoke. Weaken, Hex, and Provoke. He could be great for that. If he has good multipliers, maybe put him in like a actual somewhat damage dealing set. But I think he's going to be a really cool champion for progressional stuff. I don't see him being a champion like that I would need to go for my account, though I do want to test him out with the Obro team because this extra ally joining the attack is really cool. And I wonder how that works with Obro in her A1. Since her A1 attacks all enemies, is it going to boost the damage on all enemies that I'm hitting, or is it just going to be on that one head and everything else is the same? I don't know, but I'm definitely looking forward to trying that out. He brings a lot of really cool stuff. I think it's an awesome fusion, Force Affinity. I don't think he's going to be any relevance to the arena, but we do have a champion who will be a relevance to the arena, which is going to be the free champion. So this is the fusion champion, and let's check out the free champion. So the free champion is right over here. This is going to be Alice the Wanderer. So Alice in Wonderland, all that kind of good stuff. But this champion is going to be more tailored for the arena. She has a sheep, or not a sheep. What the heck? It's a rabbit. A sheep on her back. Why did I think that was a sheep? I was thinking maybe the polymorph. No, polymorph even in WoW is a sheep as well. Either way, let's move on to Alice. So Mad Hatter, I'm going to go for him. I think you guys should as well. Obviously, it's dependent on the actual fusion schedule. But moving over to Alice, Alice the Wanderer. Now, this is going to be the free login champion. That's also going to start tomorrow, I do believe. So log in, 7 days, you get the champion. You're probably going to get the soul for this champion as well. I'd say Alice is a far more valuable champion to get a soul for than the Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter's soul, since he's not going to be in PvP, typically souls are going to be like Brimstone, Cruelty would be good for him, things like that. But for Alice, having a soul on damage dealers puts you in a spot where you can actually be competitive. Like I said before, if you guys want me testing things specific on the test server, let me know. I can get some videos out for you guys tomorrow. But she's pretty awesome. So the A1 skill attacks one enemy 2 times, places an extra hit if the target has any active skills on cooldown, which isn't too difficult of a condition to meet. Each hit has an 80% chance of decreasing the duration of a random buff on the target by 1 turn. Now, before we get too far into her kit, I do want to say it's going to make you want to lean towards accuracy. I don't think it's going to function as well as some people may hope, but let's continue. The A2 is attacks all enemies. It's an AoE attack. 75% chance of increasing the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns. This is the same ability that Basher has. So Basher also increases all target skills by 2 turns. Now, it says 2 turns, but it's actually just 1. So they skip 1 turn, and then the next turn they can use their abilities. So something to be mindful of, it's not actually 2 turns of them skipping, it's 1 turn of them skipping. Champions who have 3-turn lockouts make the enemy skip 2 of their turns. It's a little bit weird, but this will just be 1 turn of them skipping. Also, 75% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 15% if at least one of the target's skills has its cooldown increased to the max. Decrease their turn meter by 30% instead. Okay? So if you run like a Crixia, like a Warlord alongside her, then this will be a pretty easy condition to meet. You will need accuracy for this though. So when building damage dealers with accuracy, it starts to get a little bit weird. But of course, if you had her, 5-star soul, that'd be okay. You'd have accuracy built in. She could reduce the turn meter of like their damage dealers, mess up the speed tune. You don't have to reduce everybody's turn meter to ruin a team's speed tune, or at least take it out of sync. So that could be really good. And then her A3 skill attacks one enemy, will ignore 20% of the target's defense if the initial target is killed, also attacks the enemy with the lowest HP, will also ignore 20% of the target's defense. So a potentially very hard-hitting A3 ability. We have to see how the multipliers are, but an initial ignores 20%, and then an extra ignores 20% on the target with the lowest HP is basically like, okay, you're killing one champion, and then you're almost guaranteed to kill the next one since they're going to be the lowest HP, assuming you're not hitting the squishiest one with the first hit. Either way, very potentially strong ability. And then the passive. Whenever this champion attacks, inflicts 3% bonus damage to each target for each turn remaining on all of their skill cooldowns. The bonus damage is counted individually for each target. This is actually a skill I did not read yesterday. We've had this information for a little bit, but I didn't read this too much. So whenever this champion attacks, inflicts 3% bonus damage to each target for each turn remaining on all of their skill cooldowns. The bonus damage is counted individually for each target. Okay, so if a target has 5 turns remaining, is it going to be 15% extra damage? In Hydra, does this work? Could be interesting for each turn remaining on all of their active skills. That could be really powerful for Hydra, actually. I was thinking initially that she was not going to be using Hydra, but this passive effect that's basically a hex set built into her could make her pretty good in Hydra. So I may have to try that out. And then resets the cooldown of one of this champion's skills each time they kill an enemy. Occurs once per skill. So she's not going to have any use in Hydra from this A2 skill. This A3 could be really good in Hydra. This A1 could be cool as well. Hydra skill cooldowns, they do have skill cooldowns. They actually have a decent amount of skill cooldowns as well. So she could be a really solid Hydra champion, but definitely PvP. Like PvP is going to be the obvious place to put her, especially if you have lockout champions. It could be even better. But then in Hydra could be really cool. She's not going to reduce their skill cooldowns to the max though. So it's going to be up to really what her multipliers are. If they're good multipliers, she could be awesome in Hydra. If they're not so good multipliers, then she's probably just going to be a skip. But I'm definitely interested in trying her out there. So Hydra for sure. The Arena definitely. Free champion, super sweet. The Mad Hatter Fusion, I'm actually looking forward to doing that as well. I don't think he's going to be, he's not going to be a Thor level champion. I'm saying that. Maybe I eat my words. I hope I do. I would love to see him work into something amazing. But just this look, he seems to be really good. But he doesn't seem to be like Thor level where he's going into Nightmare Hydra and pushing some really good numbers. And like he's going into the top high-end team. Well, not the top teams, but very high-end teams. He's definitely going to fit. Because let's actually check this out real quick. So we come in here and see what champions bring just a decreased defense. Decreased defense AoE. There's not a whole lot, but Ugo is the most popular one, I'd say. Ugo is a very common Hydra champion, and then you're left with just getting a weaken AoE. Which, if we go for the weaken AoE, I feel like there's not very many champions who bring a weaken. We have Avarl. He's really good for Hydra, definitely. We have Leorius. Most people don't have him, though. We have a few champions with weaken AoE, but I feel like it's just more difficult to get, especially on a champion whose kit makes sense for Hydra. But his makes a lot of sense. So getting that extra 25% damage is going to be really big for a lot of players, especially if you're just working on getting to the 1.2 billion damage on Hydra, or if you're working on actually pushing up some serious numbers. Or just the first chest. Whatever you're going for, weaken's amazing. But guys, like I said, let me know what kind of content you want to see on these champions. Let me know what your thoughts of these champions are. Are you excited for this event? I'm looking forward to it. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 30,000 subs, which is pretty crazy. So I appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much. Guys, I'll catch you in the next one.